Welcome, everybody. I'm Barry Kostrinsky, president of the Artist Talk on Art, the ATOA. This is our 42nd virtual open studio on a Monday. This has been our response to COVID. When things clear up, we will be back at 12 West 12th Street in the Lower West Side. We've been doing talks on art for 47 years on the Lower West Side. We will continue this side by side because, as we were talking about before, this has given us a breadth of audience. We have presenters from Scotland, Milan, London, Australia. Nebraska's in the house tonight. Shout out. It is in the United States. And so we've really, this is going to be run side by side when we get back to the new normal, if there ever is such a thing. The way we run it here, we'll have 3 speakers tonight. We have Joe Ovelman, Colin Cathcart, and Peg Reilly. We encourage interaction, not just questions, but if you want to say something, congratulations, something you like. We're a positive group. I like to refer to this as the opposite of the crit that you got in college for your studio. Nobody leaves here crying, snaps and claps for us. And it's about sharing, and anything you like is always welcome. I will say, Zoom is very sensitive to your audio. If you want, mute yourself. Just remember, if you try and do that little phone call, we are going to hear it. And so, just do your best for that. We'll probably run into some technical difficulties. We have Michael Krasowitz here, our resident expert. There it goes. So if we run into a problem, Michael will help us. I want to thank, I see board members Mitch Pilnick and yes, the board members Mitch Pilnick holding the anchor there for the board. Thank you, Mitch. And we are a 501c3. This is all for free. If you'd like to make a contribution, it's welcome. You can go to our website, atoanyc.org. As well, there's a chat function. On the bottom, you can click chat. Feel free to put any information, website about yourself, anything at all that you want to share, even a comment. I'll often read comments as well. And so it's a way to keep the dialogue going. If for any reason you're not on our mailing list, send me an email, put it in the chat, whatever you like, so we make sure that you're on it. Roberto Bernardi just joined us. She's one of our board members at the ATOA. Hi, Roberta. Nice to see you. And we'll jump right in. Joe, we'll start with you. Michael, we may need some expertise in troubleshooting, but I'm going to try, see if we can do it. And so, Joe, what I'll recommend is first get up on your screen what you want us to see on your computer screen, and then you hit screen share and desktop, and it should be smooth and easy. I'll give a light introduction. I've known Joe a little bit while we were in the South Bronx together. I think a lot of Joe, I think artists that push you to think in simple ways are complicated. And Joe does that. He did I cannot describe your work. I cannot. I remember when I met you, you showed me some performance things. I see your children's books you're working on now. I see your drawing style. And I think sometimes when you can't pigeonhole an artist, that's a good thing. Not necessarily the formula, but I do respect Joe very much. I'm very excited that he decided to come on. I think he's a great spirit. I'll definitely agree when I see some of the things he writes negatively about art fairs and things like that. I think he hits it in a few words. He hits some deep meaning. And I like that about you, Joe. Also, smiles go a long way. I see a good smile. So I'd say, yeah, let me just ask you, where are you from originally, Joe? And give us a little intro, maybe background, anything you want to share. Really, this is your moment, to share with us what you like about yourself. And then we'll go to the technical side and get you up.
I was born in Pennsylvania, a state in the United States. And I went through public school. My dad was military and my mom cleaned houses. I went the traditional route, or I went to college. It was an untraditional route. I spent 5 years in undergrad. I left there. I worked for a bank for 1 year. and sold credit card debt, and said this isn't for me. And then I moved to New York to be an artist, and that was 1995. So, and have had a wonderful go of it.
Did you
I'm
do
having
any,
a wonderful go of it.
did you do any artwork before that, or was it really a sort of switch from finance and finding yourself, or as a kid, was there something that you liked to do, or you were a prolific drawer, crafts?
I did a lot of drawing and craft. I was in advertising when I worked for the bank. So I using all debt.
You want to go to screen
It wasn't
share?
for me. Uh, so do that again, tell me.
So I would say first put up on, you're on a computer.
Yeah,
So I'd say on your computer, punch up what you want us to see, whether it's.
got it.
All right, then go to your bottom. There should be a green thing that says share screen.
Yep. Do you see it?
Oh, we got it. I got UIC. That's the university. Oh, UIC. I love that. There's the simplicity.
So that's an acronym, right? It's 3 letters is an acronym. University Industrialized Complex. So what started as me selling debt to credit card users through Affinity brand credit cards, I was sold debt by a MFA program in Philadelphia. And when I did what they told me I should do and to get what they promised me, and I didn't get what I was promised, I made this book. So it talks about student loan debt. Last November. So now can I find other stuff on here? Or do I have to find it? So then I crossed the country last year. You talked about doing performance. I crossed the country last year and in the hopes to visit protest sites. So I went to Kent State, in Ohio, and visited where the protesters were shot and killed in 1973. And I talked with an MFA student at that school, and I gave that student a UIC book. And then I went up to Detroit to UAW, United Auto Workers strike, because I wanted to visit that. There's a protest in my book. So I was visiting these sites of protest, and walking up to the strike line, I thought, oh, I don't belong here. This isn't, I don't want to use their strike to sell my book. And I talked to the worker, and I still did it anyway, because I want to follow through on the idea. And all he had to say in reply was, we want the things in the contract reinstated. So I left there with mixed feelings about my cross-country performance or trek, and was telling someone in a bar that night about that story. And he said, oh, you should come visit my school. We have an MFA program. And I did that, and I met an MFA artist there, and I gave her a book. I gave that artist a book. And from there, I decided I wasn't going to visit sites of protest anymore, that the journey across the country was my protest. And I started going to MFA programs up and down the United States, hand delivering, gifting the book to MFA students. And then when I got to the desert, I wrote the fan fiction follow-up, 14 schools in 14 days. So yeah, which I was going to show you a picture of, but I have the book right here. Can I just show you it here?
Yes, you can. Just go nice and slow. Let me ask you, a little bit inspired by Jack Kerouac?
You know, on the road, I had the opportunity when I left college to backpack for 60 days with a rail pass, and in Europe. And I got home and someone said, oh, you should read Kerouac. And I started reading it and I was like, I don't need to read this. I just did it. So maybe, is it like Jack Kerouac? Because I haven't read it. But it is an exciting adventure. And I write it as if I'm the artist that I met in Chicago.
I often say it's
I mean, in Detroit.
it's not necessarily that inspired by, but you drew from the same cloud that Kerouac drew from. So you had the same impetus. He's like a brother that you didn't know, but you went, like you say, I just did that. And I sort of respect that as opposed to a laid out path. Of course, many ways to do things. Do you want to try and do, you want to hold up the book and go page by page? It definitely works for us. Or you could screen share again and show some images. Just punch up on your computer what you like.
So Barry and everyone, I must apologize for not being more. What's the format here? Do you have, do we each get 10 minutes?
Oh, figure like 20 minutes each.
Okay.
Yeah, you got time.
Thank you.
You got time. We've had people go 40 minutes. They just, give an extra $150.
Perfect. Is that?
Yeah, it's those last minutes.
I sent Creative Capital. I joined Creative Capital in the hopes of getting that award, and I didn't get it. But that's okay. It's a good grant program. I didn't know I had to give a donation here.
No, you don't have to, but 3 people will show up at the door tomorrow if you don't.
I'm excited to give a donation to this program.
I'm totally joking. Totally joking. Where are you now, Joe? I remember you moved from the Bronx to Philadelphia, correct?
I am in Philadelphia, but now I'm in Bushwick. I'm so excited. I came back to New York. I am the tourist again, Robin Halpern. Sorry. Oh, no, now I live there. I'm not a tourist again. Now I'm a New Yorker again. So I'm moving into Brooklyn. I got a really great loft space that I'm building out. It will be an event space and be able to work there. I'm building a bedroom up on a stage, so I have storage. It's really a great space, and I got the COVID discount, so I'm really excited to be back in New York.
That's right. What's that, a 20% discount?
More like 33 1/3.
That's good.
Yeah.
Michael, would you mind punching up Joe Ovelman's Instagram?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
No, it's supposed to show work.
I'll have Michael screen share on his end, if that's okay, Joe. And do you mind if he
Sure.
just runs through images and you comment?
Absolutely, whatever works for you.
That totally works.
Joe, just tell me which ones you want to show. Should I show this first one?
I love the first one.
Okay.
It features a song that my nieces and nephews love. Can you play it?
Yeah.
I don't know her name though. What's her name? Stella Jang. Stella Jang. You don't have
We
to
can't
play
hear it.
Yeah, we can't
Don't
hear.
worry about it. You can go to another image.
Okay. Hang on a second.
So that's part of the coloring book. You want to tell us a little bit about the coloring book?
It's very funny to follow up the coloring book with the vote, where the penis acts as the voting handle. The coloring book is made under a pseudonym. Can we get? I don't want to talk about the coloring book while that image is up.
Okay. So let's talk about the penis poll.
Okay.
You can
Just
go to
tell me
100pajamas.com and we'll talk about the coloring book. There are illustrations made during quarantine. I had a conversation. If we can get to 100pajamas.com, that would be great.
Okay, hang on.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Michael.
Joe, would I be right to say a lot of your work is social or political commentary with comedy?
Yes,
Is this where-
and I hope that these are joyful. These have comedy. Can I pop in here or no? Yes, I can.
No, do you want me to, is this where I'm supposed to be, or you want me to search in here somewhere?
You know what? Anyone that's watching, if they're interested in seeing some of the illustrations from that project, you can go to 100pajamas.com, please. But these are, yeah, this is frustrating. How do I get it back?
Isn't that where we are?
Yes. I just put it into the browser, but go ahead, Michael, just click on a few things.
Hey, Barry, do you want to choose something, or do you want to just go to my website and we'll take a look at a couple things? I can do that here.
This is working. These are the apparel, right?
Well, yeah, but they've been turned into t-shirts, which is rather expensive and very little return.
Joe, if
But
you
it
want
was
to show your,
exciting because these are things my family can support me in. So yes, do I use humor in my work? I do. I talk about really heavy issues. I did a book called On Grief, where I talk about really heavy things, and I talk about anonymous sex. I talk about heavy subjects, and I do it with a sense of humor for sure.
I can go to your website if you want. Or if you
That
want,
would be great, Michael. Or I could just share screen and then I'll navigate the website.
okay, I'll get out. That's
We
probably
can-
best.
Yeah,
Just pull up your website.
yeah. I'm sorry, artists talk on artists. I'm so sorry to you, Barry, and to everyone. I thought we were just going to talk.
That's
Let's see.
okay. I didn't prep you. And you know what? I like to say, when you pull up in a car and the car in front of you doesn't move right away, we all get upset. This is a different attitude. Take it slow here. There's no rush. We have time. We have 3 presenters. It's about relaxing a little bit.
So are you seeing the screen now?
Yes. Very good. Very well done.
That you asked for, or that you, this art fair suck out during, it was made, gosh, what years? 15 years ago. Still around and popular. Sell the most. It's crazy. I want to be immersed, but I'm happy for them. They're good for me, and they're good for a lot of us and dealers. So great. Where else? What else do you want to say? This is I'm really proud of this show. And Andrea Rosen showed these. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
So this is the For Whites Only show in 2007.
This was
I should read my artist. I should read my audience a little better. This is not the one to start with.
It is, Joe. Don't read your audience. We're all artists. It's all perfect.
So this series of drawings I made while thinking about how in my public school education, it wasn't until Rosa Parks died that I learned that the Montgomery, Alabama bus strike lasted longer than a year. And that annoyed me. It's kind of like, what's that? Oh gosh, it's a show now on Netflix, and they talk about, and it's terrible. I don't even know the state, but where during integration in the United States, racial integration in the United States, a town with the black district, the people that ran white people just came into the city and beat and killed business owners and people walking down the street.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you. I didn't learn about that. I'm 51. I just turned 50 in December. And I learned about that because of some show on Netflix.
Yeah.
And so I made this work in thinking about that growing up. So I don't know how it's aged. I know Rosen showed it in 15 on Randall's Island, and Sheldon Scott showed parts of this show in Washington, D.C. maybe in 2012. So this was a I talked about crossing the country and gifting the book to students in universities all across the US. But this participatory project, Rosa Parks 381, I went out and told 381 people who could self-identify as Black that I was
makes common sense that it likely would be more effective. If you add on another mask, you may actually make it tougher for the air to move through.
So is someone not happy with what I'm saying?
No, I'm gonna mute a bunch of people. I'm sorry. Somebody just came on and, yeah, I'm gonna mute. I think we got it. Go ahead, Joe. We're good.
So this participatory project was about finding 381 people to correspond to the number of days of the bus strike. And when I met this, whoever it was, when I met this person, I said, hey, James Baldwin said that he'll be Black for as long as you tell me you're white. And so I'm out telling people I'm white and telling them that I was, whenever Rosa Parks died, 2007, probably 2006, because this work took more than a year to make. It wasn't until she died that I learned that strike lasted for more than a year.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that myself. Are you shooting with a Polaroid, and which one are you shooting with?
This one, it's whatever Polaroid camera was out in 2003. I think Lyle Ashton Harris is who introduced me to the Polaroid. I mean, I knew of Polaroid, but he's the one that was making work with it when I met him.
Yeah, that's the wide Polaroid you have. I'm a fan of Polaroids. They are a lot of fun.
Well, I took a photo of the person I was speaking with, signed it and gave it to them. And in exchange, they took a photo of me, signed it and gave it to me. So that was pretty cool. Why is this not working now? Oh, here we go. And there's the total, the 381 people. Well, there are 381 of me with 381 signatures. So that participatory nature of my work is, I think, what people first responded to here in Marine Corps uniform circa 1970. When I was born, my father was overseas, and so this is the what I saw. This is his uniform. But I asked participants, I asked people on South Beach, Miami, the Corral Beach, to don the uniform and pose for the portrait. I shot it in color negative, and then I printed it a black and white process. So, to a fiber paper. It's difficult when you're looking at them in person to tell which war they're representing. But it's not unusual for me to, these, wait, oh, this is inside. That's Bill Brady's gallery. Bill has a new gallery in Chinatown that opened in the past like 3 months. He's partnered with someone, but, oh yeah, these walls. This is a big one. These are participatory. Wow, you really can't see it. But I went in and covered this whole advertising. I cover it with images. This is stuff I was doing 15 years ago. I don't know. It's the original Instagram, really. Where's Boys for Spring? That one reads better. Here. Yeah, it looks like an Instagram wall.
I like it. You have a way of going at a theme and sort of pounding it together in a very good way. It's very cohesive, very logical.
Well, these took help. You know, I had people help me make these. When we did Times Square, we did fisting on Times Square, and it was a close-up image of a forearm and someone's performing a fist. And I'll say that, but
you could say it.
well, you can't really see what it is, but we covered gosh, a block of Times Square, and the Teamsters were there by the time we were done. We had 3 groups of people, like at each station. And what took us, for an hour and 10 minutes to do, it took them 10 minutes to undo. They had repostered the whole thing. But that was cool. I have a video of it somewhere.
I always like to say creativity goes against entropy. It's very hard to create. It's very easy to destroy. Not to be political, but 9/11, taking down those buildings relatively quick, obviously planning, but building buildings like that, years. And I think that's part of our artist process. We are going against sort of entropy. And I think that's the beauty of art. That's creation.
Well, I'd rather build than just, well, it's fun to destroy. But I prefer building. What make a great team? When I left, so I left New York for Whites Only because it had beat me for a minute. I got a really great review of that show in the Times. Something else bashed, a couple things bashed it, but I was beaten. And so I went and I founded a nonprofit. I built a nonprofit that taught job skills to people coming out of jail and prison. And I worked in conflict resolution with middle school students. And I ran for public office and won in my hometown as a out gay man who took pictures of himself in the middle of the night in Central Park in drag, in girl drag. But I was still able to have this impact in my community, in my hometown. And this series of drawings, with permission, I had students answer the question, what makes a great team?
Let me ask you, what gets at the heart of your interactivity, of your inclusiveness, of the participation? Because that's a common theme here, whether you have the soldiers dress up in a costume, whether you're, working with people, the teamwork. What is either the root of that, or I don't want to say what's your point. I want to say I like it very much, but it's obviously very different. Even you going and giving your artwork to people is a very different, radical approach. The art object is precious. We sell it for 92 million if it's a Botticelli. So what are you diverting the system, saying there's another system? Are you being incorporative? What's your impulse?
I only know my own system. I mean, I'm working within a system, but I can only do it. I don't know that I have an answer. I don't have a clear-cut answer to that, Barry. Sometimes I remember passing a gallery. I was very young, first in New York, and someone said, and it was called Outsider Art Gallery, and I said, "What's that?" And the artist I was with said, "Oh, don't worry about that. You never want to be that." And I feel like that's kind of what I am now. So, I don't know the answer to your question.
Well, you obviously do it all intuitively, and it seems all right to me. Let's show one or two more things, and then we'll move on. Fascinating, diverse group of work, Joe. I do want to say, Michael said that's probably the Spectrum camera that you use. That's the wide, low one, as far as the Polaroids.
Thank you, Michael.
I have a question.
I have it somewhere. I just saw it.
What's your
Yes.
sizing? You like the question first occurred to me with the looking at the post-it note stuff, but it's kind of like a broad question. What do you work? Large format? Is it post-it note size? What's the like?
Post-it note is the greatest thing ever since Romy and Michelle's high school reunion, because they were just in my studio and a dealer came and he said, "I can sell these." make me more of these. And I was like, well, I'm already making them. They're on my wall. It's easy enough to make. It was, they're just Post-its. It's Sharpie on Post-it, and it's a time and place for those. They were easy to frame and sell when art fairs first started. So I want to just point, I love these so much, and they just scream joy to me. I mean, come on, it's an elephant and it's a feather for me. And it references Dumbo and the flying elephant. There's one, it didn't make the t-shirt, but it's in because the t-shirt, we just launched these 6, here's Puss in Boots, right?
Joe-
John Waters, yes?
There is a company, there are a number of companies that have big distribution and that would take this and do this and sell them for you, and you would only get a portion of it. But that they really have a very wide distribution.
Well, Regina, please turn me on to a name.
I'm going to look for it and I'll email it to you. I don't have it here right now, but I will definitely, I have it because at one point I wanted to do that with my artwork, put them on, and they'll put them on anything. They'll put them on
yeah. Well,
on a
that's what
banknote.
this
They'll
is.
put them on a shower curtain, whatever. If you have a high enough resolution image, they'll put them on different things. So I'll look it up for you. And you want to put your email in the chat?
Sure. You can contact me at my website, joeovelman.com, but I'll
Okay.
put my email in the chat. There's a contact at joeovelman.com.
Okay.
Yes, and I don't know how to do that, but I'll look.
Well, I'll send it to you. And I also wanted to ask you, I put it in the chat. When you did your books, did you self-publish them?
I did self-publish. Well, the first one, Billy Miller and Straight to Hell magazine published. And Billy for years has been running that magazine. Is like 60 years old, but Billy's had it probably 10 or more.
What's the magazine? Billy?
Straight to Hell.
Straight to Hell. Okay. No, I did a comic book that's kind of political too, and I would love to see about getting it published at some point.
Yeah,
with the right places.
Well, it's a love. I mean, it's a labor of love.
Yep.
It's very expensive because I don't know how I had to build the website, but it is affiliated with one of those print on demand companies.
Okay.
Well,
JoeOvelman.com.
I do
All
want
right,
to
well, I'll
say,
send you this information. It might be-
I do want to say Glorious Samson Knight has pointed out, wasn't Grandma Moses an outsider art? Mitch Pilnick, who was just speaking earlier before we started, mentioned the outside art fairs, which are going on now. Obviously, outside art has come full house inside the art world and probably has always been, whether it's Jean Dubuffet, I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but outside art has always had a big place. It's usually that art that maybe is not so easy to classify. And so it's considered outside. Yes, there were brood artists, there are different terms. It is, it's a very generic word. The way I look at it is you're doing something different, and that's always good. I think artists want to do that. You want to push boundaries. I want to thank you, Joe. It's nice to see you. Nice presentation, a diverse group of works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hey, I just want to stop. I want to say one more thing about that coloring book. John Waters did a film, Pink Flamingos. So there's a pink flamingo in the coloring book, and the flamingo is wearing Goldfish Crackers pajamas. And that's because the character in the film, the brother in that film, his name was Crackers. So there are adult undertones, but all the images are kid friendly, and they are, they're for my niece and nephews. So please check it out. Thank you very much for having me. Colin, will I get to speak? Like if I wrote questions down for Colin and Peg, will I have an opportunity to ask those, or should I ask them now?
No, what we'll do is we'll go to Colin, and then while he's presenting, everyone feel free to jump in and ask questions, make statements, anything you like. I like to keep this more as a sort of open dialogue as opposed to a panel. Colin, we'll move over to you now, and I'll have Michael on hand in case we need help. But you know the idea. It's sort of punch things up on your computer screen, then we'll hit screen share. Colin is from South East Nebraska, and welcome to Artist Talk on Art.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to have been invited. Is my volume good? Is everything? Yeah, cool. First off, Joe, the Marine Corps photos, the straight ahead nature of those really hit me. Those that was super cool.
Thank you.
I guess I'm from Southeast Nebraska. I was born and raised here in a like a farm community. I'm a little nervous to be talking to you all. I don't know what I'm doing. This is good. I've had a studio practice for the last 10 years. I love to paint. Spent about 20 years working on a bachelor's degree in fine art, and I'm getting there. I'm getting really close to it. It's been kind of a funny thing to talk about with my family. They're all professional people, doctors and psychologists and whatnot, and they're like, you're still working on that fine arts degree. I'm like, yeah.
What were some of the colleges you went to for that?
I'm currently attending Peru State College right now. I'm taking one class at a time. This semester, it's Art History 1, which is fun. It's good. I've always been a fan of art history. It's a great time killer. UNO. I went to UNO for a while. I was a theater major at UNO, acting. I wanted to be I guess a Renaissance man. That didn't pan out. I work in the print industry. Actually, I about 5 years ago, more like 7 years ago, got this job at a t-shirt printing operation, which really informed the work. And I'm going to send you a link to that shop. We do the work that Regina was talking about. Kind of graduated up from printing t-shirts to making signs, and all the tools that I got from that I was using in that industry has really just poured itself into the studio practice. It's really kind of been a pain to deal with. I don't know. I would have been somewhere else entirely had I not got that job, which is who knows what it is. I might have been wearing a suit somewhere with a nice car. But yeah, I have I think I have some stuff here. Let's see.
Colin, I always like to ask, how did you get started in the arts? Was it something you did when you were younger? Were you a drawer, a prolific drawer? What was your sort of early days? I always find what artists did when they're very young sometimes carries through.
Yeah, love to paint. I mean, we always had stuff in front of us. It was less, it was more like doodling, I suppose. It wasn't I guess what really kicked it off was in high school I protested algebra 2. And they put me in a second art class. So I had art and then lunch and then art again. And it was great. And that really had a really fantastic teacher. Her name was Rhonda Johnson. She sent me to talk to Peru State College and got a small scholarship there, and that's kind of where it started, I guess.
I like that. I think our sort of early influences in high school or middle school can do something. And I had a similar thing in high school where I had my ceramics and my painting in the afternoon, and it was like a different school because I really had like 2 classes together. A teacher would let me stay if I was into my ceramics, and I wouldn't even go to the other class. And it was a very different feel. And I had a Mr. Blackburn that I never forgot, a really strong influence on me, sort of like the first artist I worked with or saw what an artist was. Do you want to punch up some of your images on Instagram? I see them there. Are we
Sure.
looking at acrylic?
Yeah, predominantly. I hate waste. I hate waste. Like it's been a lot of addition and reduction for years. Just dumping paint on the canvas, and then it all runs off on the floor, and it just drove me crazy. So I was putting containers under it to catch it, and I was laying canvases on the ground to catch it, and came to this this thing where I was able to. I figured this out. Maybe it's already been done. I don't know. I'm here in South East Nebraska. We're kind of on a berg, where I was able to pull up large pieces of paint that had hit the floor. This is like a paint chip. It's a 4 foot by 5 foot paint chip, which really kind of knocked my eyes out when it first happened. And it was all just aggravation. It was I was trying to emulate Richter with his large swipe paintings.
Sure.
With these things, which very limited success with that. And one day it just aggravated, set the stuff down on the tarp, and came back later and picked the squeegee up, and all the paint came up with it, right? And started peeling that paint off, still aggravated about it, and throwing it to the side, and it was landing on another one that was on the floor, which was this one. And the way that is really kind of how all that paint hit the canvas. I had no control over that at all. Maybe moved it around a little bit, but it felt a lot like who's the Dada artist that used to drop paper on his work and rearrange them a little bit. It kind of felt like that. Like he would come up with these compositions, just dropping paper in the randomness of how they hit the ground.
We're talking about Kurt Schwitters or no?
I think that's yeah. That sounds right.
I will say one thing. I see I do know some artists who work like this. I mean, I think as artists, we realize, when you clean your brush, and if you clean it on paper towel, the paper towel starts to look like art. Matthew Burkhardt is an artist here. When he's done trimming ceramics, you then got the leftover trim. And if you're creative, you realize there's something in that. I know Bradley Allen Hart would put canvas on the ground to get just what you did, to get the paint. And since you're using acrylic, he would peel off and do similarly what you're doing. However, I noticed that's Bradley Hart. Does a lot with, and he does a series called Wasted Paint. What I've noticed as well, though, is you often inlay a diamond or a rectangle, and it makes me think of Malavik. And I know it's very different because, you've got the Richter look, but then you've got this image. Tell me about the image, how you came to it, if you're referencing whether it's Mondrian or Malavik, and, what's that about?
I wish I was referencing Mondrian with this. I really do. It was all accidental. I bought about 50 of those canvases, and they all just happened to have that diamond stretcher frame underneath. And during the reduction process, scraped too hard on it, and it revealed this this shape, and that stuck in my head for too long. Probably I made too many of those things, and too few of them were successful. But it led to something else. It was all accidental.
Chance and accident can be quite a muse in the arts, no question about it.
Some of this other stuff, like I've gone in so many different directions, right? Just experimenting with different things. I don't feel like I know what's going to work until it shapes out. And I honestly have no idea what's good in my own work. It's like I have to wait till somebody else walks through the space and then points something out, and it's something I'd set over in a corner, right? And they're like, "Oh, I really love that." It's like I was planning on painting over that, but I'm not going to now that you said this. This one right here was one of those. It was like slated to be scraped clean. It was slated to be sanded down, and because it just seemed too simple, too easy. But and maybe it is. I don't know. Somebody liked it, and then I had to keep it, which was great. Had to keep it around.
A friend of mine, Robert Puglisi, was a photographer for Alan Stone Gallery, and he said he once went to photograph an artist who was very well off, and the artist said to him, "What do you think of this?" The artist was painting as the photographer was there, and he did a few cross hatches and deep gouges into a painting. Robert said, "I like it." He went away and photographed some more things. When he came back, the whole canvas was covered in the gouges and the scrapes. So that does happen quite a lot. That's sort of an interactivity. I've heard stories of Georgia O'Keeffe starting in the top left of a painting and working all the way to the bottom right and done. Total vision, total laid out. I assume Mondrian laid it all out. I think we often realize here, artists have different paths, different methods. There's no one right or wrong, but they're certainly all exciting in a way, and we certainly all get a thrill by them. I agree. I think this is a great piece. You have translucence. You've got, I like when I can't put my finger on what it is, but it like reads, and I'm sure everybody here looking at this is seeing slightly different things. And your color palette is very harmonized. So it's also, easy on the eye with aggressive line, with question, with sort of layering. So it's like apple pie. It's got the crust, it's got the filling, it's got the top, it's got it all.
It took me a long time to come around to it. It really did. These are the most recent things. These peel things. I'm not sure where this is going.
Yeah. Colin, could I ask a question about the peeled paintings?
Please.
How do you put them back on the canvas, the pieces, once you peel them off?
I'm struggling
How do you
with
get
that
them?
right now. I really am. I'm struggling with that very concept right now. The way the method so far has been to cover it in acrylic pour medium, and then
Yeah, that's like a glue. Yeah.
But it's too glossy. It acts strange. This one was done that way, and
Did you use matte medium? You could use matte medium.
Matte medium.
So it's not glossy.
That makes sense. It's also, it stays gummy for a long time. It's still got a texture to it. Like you can still put a fingerprint in it after a long time. So I'm still digging around for some ways to affix these things to it.
You should
Can I say something?
Check with Golden Company. They give free advice to artists, and they're happy to.
They're gonna get sick.
They'll send you free samples too, so you can try it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're great for art if you work in acrylic.
I heard somebody wanted to join in, jump in,
Yeah.
with an idea.
Matthew, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just Utrecht acrylic gel medium.
Utrecht acrylic gel medium.
And you want you don't want the glossy, you want matte. And rather than painting it over the top of it, just use it like a glue because it's the same material as the acrylic is. It just has no color.
You have some experience with this?
Oh yeah, yeah. And you can do many things with it, including lifts and other things, such as like a Rauschenberg kind of use newspaper and imagery, and then you put that down and you can wash it. And there's many things to it, but it's a glue that's made of acrylic, has no color. And I don't know why yours was so gummy still, but it should dry in like 10 minutes if you don't, if you use it right. Just use it on the back and stick it and let it press around. And therefore you're not coating your surface and ruining the surface.
Very cool. I appreciate it. I appreciate
Or
it.
just prime the area that you're going to stick it and then stick it to and just gently press it in. You don't need to use it too thick.
That was the first try. That was the first attempt. It created like an orange peel effect. The first thought was to just prime the canvas and lay these things down and let it dry onto it, right? And the primed layer dried in a different fat. It dried differently than the paint that was already dry.
Yeah.
It was
So you have to use the medium.
The gel medium works, and the matte, the reference of the matte is it's not glossy.
I appreciate you.
Yep, we like your work.
You can also use matte Mod Podge.
Mod Podge.
Mod Podge, sorry to say, but Mod Podge is really sticky and tacky at times.
Yeah. But
Somebody recommended that the other day. I haven't got around to that yet. Yeah, Mod Podge.
maybe the gel medium's better. I don't know. I've used both. I haven't noticed a difference, but it sounds like
An archival issue with the Mod Podge.
What'd you say, Joel?
Is the Mod Podge archival?
I don't know that.
I'm just asking. I don't know if it matters. Colin, when you named Rat-a-tat Pop, one of the peels,
Yeah.
are you concerned at all with the with leading your viewer with your title? Because most of your pieces are just titled peel number, right?
I did. Yeah, right. Yeah. I never know what to call something. I didn't actually name that. Somebody in the comments wrote that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was named by you.
It's okay. No. And I thought it was funny, so I went with it. I'm not concerned. People are going to see what they want to see anyway, right? It's it's funny you say that. I had a professor that absolutely hated lexicography, completely hated, really, just hated words in paintings because he didn't want you to he didn't want you to inform the viewer what they were viewing. I don't know if I agree. I don't know. So I absolutely don't agree. Used it's, I don't know. There's nothing that's out of bounds. It's all in play.
Well, on the one extreme, you have Damien Hirst with the long titles that sort of lead you into a work. And then you have artists, landscape 1, 2, 3, and the thought that the artwork speaks in the language and a label might reduce it. So, again, different approaches. And that's the thing here. As artists, we set the rules that we want to apply. We set the sort of coercions on the formula, and then we make the decision. And I think that that's part of the game we set up, sort of part of the spontaneity and the sort of creativity. And again, not one rule or formula. If you ever try and define art or what you should do, right away, you'll probably see 180 degrees is just the good explanation of what art is. The best things in mathematics are actually non-provable. Those are the fields you want to look into. And art is one of those fields that it just doesn't have a definitive answer. And maybe that's why it's such an open doorway and why at times, you think one thing and then maybe another, or you hear influence. It's not, 3 plus 5 is going to be 8, unless they're 3 bunny rabbits with 5 bunny rabbits and you give them 2 months. So math can be very concrete, but art, we set the parameters, and that's part of the beauty, part of the freedom. And of course, you can explore so many creative routes. Show a few more pieces. You're doing great, Colin, and keep sharing.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, very nice.
Uh, okay, here's one. This goes back to that whole hating waste thing. Like I said, I work in the print industry. We use a lot of vinyl. We do car wraps and T-shirts and all sorts of things. This was something that was weeded off of. I forget what it was weeded off of, to be honest with you. Is the negative space that came out of a image, and it kind of landed on the table when it was thrown away, right? In that fashion. And a friend of mine and I laughed a lot about it. Like, is it a pig dog? Is it a hippopotamus in the bushes? Let me think.
That's good.
Back to I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not sure what the next move is going to be.
That one looks great.
That's a beauty, yeah. That's
What's all the detail from?
That's a acrylic Sharpie, like a paint marker. The underpaintings, it sat around. It was just a sketch, it was an offshoot, and sat around for a long time, and it became cracked, and I didn't know what to do with it really. And one day pulled it out and just started making little marks on it. A professor I had a long time ago said, if you're stuck on something, just make a mark on the page, and it kind of carries you. And that's what it was. It's a memory, of a lit up city that had a mountainous backdrop. I'm not sure if that reads very well, but
It does, and it actually reminds me, I remember seeing this image. Matthew Burkhaw, who gave some advice before, he does work not different from this, where he draws these buildings, and whether he lays them on ceramic or he puts them on canvas, and you get this sort of multiple layering going on that sort of integrates fine drawing on a micro scale with other larger scales. And it's a nice contrast of scale.
I have to say, it was a headache to do. It really was. It was a monumental, just so many little lines, and you can't stop once you start. Back to the, if somebody sees something that they'd like to see a closer look at, please shout it out.
That one that says number 31.
31.
This is one of my favorites, really.
Yeah.
When I was printing T-shirts, we use I don't know if anybody's familiar with the process, but you use a card to take ink out of the bucket, and you put it on the print side of the squeegee side of the screen, and then you run it through, pass the ink through. But the card always contains ink, and you throw that card in the trash. And a lot of people use like spoons and whatnot, so you're not wasting so many cards. But at the time, we were using these cardboard cards. Mm-hmm. And every time I had a card, I would just scrape it off on this painting. And it got to the point where it started to look like something, right? That territory you get into where you're it's like you're in a fight with it, and you become kind of afraid to touch it. You become afraid to embellish it anymore, and it ultimately wins. It's super light. Paint has a great deal of heft to it. This is entirely plastisol printing ink. It weighs as much as a T-shirt does. It weighs as much as the canvas did when it was started, or when it was like when there was nothing on it.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to go back there and do that again. But I'm not printing t-shirts anymore.
Well, you could
Yeah.
probably replicate it somehow.
Yeah, and that work, the little black imagery does a lot because the scale is small, so the black recedes. So you got a lot of depth. Often, abstract work can get a lot of depth in scale play and color play, and that the small black recedes the space. You're not doing it with diagonals. There's no traditional Renaissance depth, but that's a contemporary sort of depth play. And I love your process of you've got paint on something, and you put it on something else, and that is that sort of Dada surreal sort of get you out of the box of what you're doing and totally opens up a new box. There's no question about it, and that's a good box. That's that's a nice piece.
That's so insightful. If you're not focused on it, you're just walking by and scraping it off, and it takes you away from the thinking about it until you got to walk back by it. That's I hadn't really thought about it that way, but that's exactly how it was. It was without, I think we often say without forethought or intuitive, but it was beyond intuitive. It was with no thought at all. That's very true.
And that's something a Zen master would go for. That sort of opens you up by, in a way, almost losing the self, losing the consciousness.
Got to start printing t-shirts again.
I think what you're doing really is you're just picking up on the fact that everything is beautiful. And I think that's something this was something that I learned with my first acid trip, 50 years ago, was, before that trip, there was nothing in the world that was beautiful. Everything was ugly. And since that trip, everything is beautiful. And I wound up having a similar experience to you in terms of producing artwork, because I had transitioned from being an artist as a musician on stage every night for 200 nights a year to suddenly becoming a photographer. And I had a color darkroom at home, and I was doing all of my own processing, almost all of my own processing at home. And I had I had a big bench that I was working at on the wet side. And there was a corner, in the process of making prints in the darkroom, we were always going to make at least one print that we're going to throw away. Sometimes often more than one print that we're going to throw away for various reasons. And there was a corner of the darkroom that I would just throw the paper over there. No particular reason, but it just, rather than going in the garbage, I would always throw the print over there. And after a couple of years, actually it's a little more complicated than that, is I even had a situation where a woman calls me up out of the blue, and she had just been to my photography store, which happened to be down the block back then. And she said, I understand you do color printing, and I just graduated school. I plan on becoming a color retoucher, which at the time was probably the single best paid job in photography. And I thought, man, this girl's smart. I want to know her. And she said, I'm just going out of town now, back home for the summer to my family in Indiana or something. But I just wanted to say, if you're doing color printing over the summer, any prints that you would normally throw out, if you will save them for me, I will be happy to buy them for the cost of the paper they're on. And I just thought, oh, well, of course I can do that. Well, about 6 months or 2 years later, I remember, I realized she never called me back. And meanwhile, I had this giant stack of prints over in that corner. And so I picked them up to throw them out. It was time to clean up the darkroom finally. And I'm a messy guy. And I pick up the first stack and I throw in the garbage. And then I go to pick up the second stack, and there's this print on top that I'm like, ooh, that looks cool. And I may have thrown it out because the client gave me the garment. I was doing a lot of fashion. Then they gave me the garment and wanted me to match exactly the color of the garment to the print. So of course that can be really clumsy to do, and take a lot of prints to do. So, but here's this print now, and the color is off. And oh gosh, I like that print. I'm going to save that one. And the one underneath, oh, that one too. And to make a long story short, out of that stack of prints, wound up being going on gallery walls for like the next 5 years. One print into a group show. And this was before I had been showing already, but before I was really just showing strict artwork like yours, where There might be something that was, well, fell on the floor and got stepped on, or the other print that fell on top of it, the chemicals, stained it. This was often the case. So your workflow and what you're doing here, it's really quite brilliant. And finding the method to make it happen so that you can generate without pouring in hours of work is probably the smart thing to do.
I appreciate you saying that, and the resonance, or I identify with that. That thing that you didn't know it was gonna be that, right? And then you pick it up, you see it again. I totally get that. That's
Very nice, Colin. I'll ask one more if anybody would like to ask a question or have a comment, and then we'll move to Peg Reilly. Anybody feel free to jump in. Just everybody, again, this is ATOA, Artists Talk on Art. We're here every Monday, 6 to 7:30. We're a 501c3. If you'd like to add your name to be on our mailing list, feel free to do so in the chat. There's a chat function here. If you'd like to donate, you can see our website, atoanyc.org. I do want to mention Jacqueline Radd is here, another board member of the ATA, has jumped on a little while ago. And thank you, everybody, for sharing. And as always, having a nice open dialogue about the visual arts. And that's sort of how we come together. If you notice, you may be in Southeast Nebraska, but you're doing things that artists are doing around the globe. That sort of makes us a community of artists that we're connected with without knowing we're connected to. And that's a very beautiful thing, I think. So if anybody would like to ask any question, Joe, you may want to, or anyone else, and then we'll move on to Peg Reilly.
I have a quick comment.
Sure.
There's a term that I use. Sometimes, well, Barry, you said some pretty interesting things about, sort of things that are happenstance becoming our muse in certain ways. But I think a lot of times, what you're picking up on and what you might be alerted to when someone else says they like something that you weren't really seeing, there's a subconscious intelligence. Like I see something very coordinated and very purposeful in spite of the conversation being that things were sort of stumbled upon or found by happenstance. And if you look at it together, I see a body of work. So Colin, you have more of a vision than you express verbally. And that's sometimes even with figurative work, I do mostly representational work, but I'll look at a painting afterwards and I will see things and reasons and connections of why I might have composed something in a certain way. And I didn't realize it at the time. So I just wanted you to know that I see that in your work. I see a subconscious kind of intelligence that might not translate very well to verbal description.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That was a very nice explanation, Audrey. I like that. And I think artists often have that underneath, and we just don't necessarily know the steps, but you come at it from some way. And that was a very nice summation of the cohesiveness to work that is organic. Nicely said. I'm going to go to Peg.
May I
yeah.
say this?
Of course.
Thank you for the insights and the suggestions and everything. It's been edifying.
Very nice. Take a look in the chat. I put up somebody's, yes, snaps and claps. I'm going to unscreen share so you can sort of see everybody. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move to Peg Reilly. Hi, Peg. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Okay, here I am. Hi, everybody. Yeah, this has been a good night. Very, very good ideas thrown around.
Very nice. And Peg, we were saying you're in, I forget, you're in New York?
Yeah, I'm coming in from Manhattan. And I retired 6 years ago, but I spent all my working life in the corporate world doing presentation art, marketing, graphic art. So I have that set of skills, but I majored in fine art. And so I've always painted on the side. I always think of myself as a painter. So I've been really happy now to be able to focus on my fine art.
Where did you go to school for fine art? Peg?
I went to the Philadelphia College of Art that turned into the University of the Arts now. And, you know, some of the teachers at that time, I know Sidney Goodman is pretty well known. So he was part of our set of instructors. So I had a good painting.
And Philadelphia is not a bad city. See, you know, you'd have to go to Paris for a Rodin museum, or you can go to Philadelphia.
That's right.
Few people don't realize you had some of the great artists come in I think 1880, 1900. Little fact, Philadelphia cream cheese was made in New York. They called it Philadelphia cream cheese because that was the seat of culture. That was a better place than New York cream cheese.
Right.
Go figure.
Yeah.
And of course you had is it the Muter Gallery in Philadelphia where they have the oddities? It's at the medical college. It's one of the more bizarre museums.
Oh, yes. Yeah, when my nieces and nephews used to visit me, I would take them there. Yeah, they had all kinds of preserved organs in jars and things like that. Yes.
And then, of course, you have the barns, the big issue of the barns moving from their original site and then moving into Philly. And of course, you can eventually walk up to the great Philly Museum and, of course, see Rocky Balboa, as if that has any content related to the great Renaissance work inside. And everybody's getting photographs with Rocky Balboa on the steps there, which is quite an interesting, aside to how art is taken in by culture.
Yeah.
Peg, do you want to share screen? What would you like to do?
Let me see. Well, we went through this once before. Okay, let me try this again now. Share screen. Here we
And again, I want to thank all the artists for coming on. We are Artists Talk on Art. We only work when artists talk on art. And you are artists. You are what make us. We're like a shell company in the Bahamas, and you're the money. That's the way I look at it. And, having people come from around and share and everybody converse, it gives me a lot of joy. And I think, we've grown a nice group here that, rotates in new people. And it's these are tough times. And so this has been, a windfall. I do find it interesting. We have tonight's group of 3 presenters were random, but there are some similarities of whether it's work on books or working in graphics or having been in finance or having taken from a field that they were in. And that is interesting. It seems to go that way.
so you can see this
Yes?
photo? Okay.
Looks like your Instagram.
Okay, should I start?
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah.
Peg.
Okay, yeah, I want to show you 2 paintings. I'm going to show you 2 paintings tonight and then introduce you to my website. But this is the venue. I'm representational painter, but this is the venue. I walk by this many times to visit my friends living in this tall red tower here, the Waterside Group. And during the spring, summer, and fall, the edge of the water erupts in these beautiful yellow flowers, and they really make you feel happy as you're walking along. So I wanted to do a painting of them. This is my reference photo. And this is where it was a technical challenge because I wanted to, I had a rich green background and I wanted to preserve the yellow flowers. So I put out the yellow flowers first. And then I'm going to paint over them a masking fluid, a clear, it looks like rubber cement, but it's made to protect what's underneath it, and you just rub it off with your finger when you're done. So I painted over all these flowers and stems with the masking fluid. So now I can do this rich green background with a freestyle with a brush and lots of greens. This is a studio view on the table. The piece is pretty large for in terms of watercolor. It's 18 inches wide and 24 inches tall. And this is the palette of greens that I'm going to use to do the background. So once I protected all these yellow flowers, I went to work on the background. This is the finished watercolor here.
I love the dimensionality you got here. I feel I can reach into there, pick out one of those flowers that back behind the stems there.
Yeah, those things in the background. I would walk by this every day because I work on a painting for 3 or 4 months, off and on, mostly, on. And I would walk by these yellow flowers again, and I would look again to get some more visual, feeling for it. So I was very pleased to finish this. It took about 4 months to do. So that's the first painting I want to show you. And the second one, this is my reference photo here. This is again along the East River. One of the best things the mayor did was put in these local ferries that go up and down the East River, and you can commute from Wall Street up to 34th Street on this boat for the price of a subway token. And it's a wonderful experience. Or you could hop on the ferry and ride out to Rockaway Beach on it for the price of a subway token. So they're wonderful. And I live right next to the river. So I see these ferries come in and out regularly every 20 minutes. So, this is an image that I wanted to paint. So to do that, I created these 6 color studies. Each one is about 6 by 9 inches. And the purpose was just to let the color, do it in any color that I felt like using at the time, to step away from that kind of muted blue palette that the original source material was from. So after I did all these studies, I worked on the final, and this is the final.
I'll have to say, Peg, I really like the studies side by side. It gets that impact that Joe Ovelman got when he did repetitive images, whether he did I think it was 381 Rosa Parks. There's some power in it, almost, draws me back to Muybridge and the sort of stills that change a little. And it shows your process, your choices, and, your experimentation. There's something in that as well.
Yeah, I think, sometimes I like working on a finished piece, but I really do enjoy the color studies even more. This, after doing all these, this is the finished piece. This is about 15 inches tall and 18 inches wide. And I got the sky. I like watercolor because you can layer it and it glows. If you know your colors, you know what to put on top of one another without overworking it. So the sky, I started with a bright cadmium yellow, and then I put a thin layer of cadmium orange on the top, and it really glows like that time of day. So
the photograph is transformed by the colors you used.
Thank you. Yes, I think I'm going to back to the original photo here. It's really like I say, it's just, it's just white and blue. I like the shapes. When I paint, I think of color and shape. So I really like the shape of this fairy, but working the color really takes it to the next level. And that's how I arrive at the final one. I've tried every color in the book. None of these colors are what are in the studies, but this finished one I was comfortable, because I'm a literalist. If the fairy's white and blue, I want to make it white and blue. So these color studies is a way to free it up and say, I can do anything I want with the color, and
Right.
that, yeah.
And his gesture, the figure's gesture,
Yes.
really activates the painting. I mean, it's just a perfect silhouette of, stop, like a movement.
It is. Yeah, this is a moment in time. Yeah, and you can just feel that fairy gliding past.
It's a beautiful combination of colors. Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that, again, going back to the studies, you don't see that you see pieces of it here and there.
Yeah.
But I think doing these things really gives you a vocabulary and a freedom where when I go to the finished piece, I can just do it. I'm used to it.
They're all good. Well, they're all good.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, they all have something that you think, wow, this, this color does this, and, each color change it represents a shifting mood.
Yes.
I like the bottom left.
Oh, this one?
So yeah, it's more abstracted. Yeah.
True. But yeah, I like this one on the top where the opera, the
Yeah,
pink
like that.
opera pink. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it really is exhilarating to be able to do these small pieces, and they only take about 15-20 minutes.
Oh, how big are they? How big are the studies?
6 inches tall, 9 inches wide.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. The last thing I want to show you is just introduce you to my website, which you can go to on your break. It's pegreillyart.com.
Aren't we all on break constantly now?
Well, yes, I know. How can I open the website?
I think we might have to stop screen sharing and then jump on again, or just try and click, see what happens. Or there's always Michael Krasowitz. That's the way you open anything in the computer.
Okay, Michael, can you help me? Because I tried to do this with Barry before and I wasn't successful.
We were. We just had we just went off and on. But Michael's.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Yeah, but Michael's got it. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
So Peg, just unshare the screen and then I'll share from here.
Okay, I'll unshare her. Stop screen sharing. I do want to mention, while Michael's punching that up, our talks go on YouTube. It's under Artist Talk on Art. And you can get to it through our website, atoanyc.org. As well, I've rearranged the website a little. So now the calendar is listed there, where you can see the talks that are coming. And we have a very exciting program. We're almost fully booked all of February, March, and April. I'm just going to run through before Meg continues. On the 8th next week, Jacqueline Cedar's Good Naked Gallery that did a brilliant presentation maybe 3 months ago is doing another presentation of video artists that are there. On 2/15, Monroe Hodder is organized Changing Colors with 2 other artists. On the 22nd, Brainard Carey, who writes books on how to get your art out, how to succeed, how to deal with your Instagram. So more of like tools for artists. He'll be speaking. March 1st, we have performance. The 8th, we have Tucson artists. The 15th is open. If anybody ever wants to present, reach out to me and I'll slot you in. On March 22nd, we have New Latinx, an art collective. My point is, we have an exciting program coming. If you ever want to see, there is a calendar now on the website that makes it a little bit easier to know what is coming. But again, always reach out. Hey, go ahead. Mike's got you up.
Well, I don't think I'm up. I can't quite.
I've got your website on. So if you have a section, you want to show the figure section or the still life, I can open that up for you.
Oh, okay. Go to the figures section. Yeah. Click on this second image here. Second row, first image.
Second row, first image.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I went through a series. This was back before the pandemic when, we actually could draw from life, get models and draw from life. So when I drew these models, I would come in, I would coat the paper with watercolor right out of the tube. This is Rose Madder Genuine here, the whole sheet. And then I drew with the charcoal, and then the other parts other than her face are done with oil pastel. So it makes for, the texture, and her, was interesting.
Right.
And go back, Michael, to we'll do the first row, second image there too. This is another one in that series. This paper was yellow. I painted it with cadmium yellow. I had to iron these sheets because it's only 90-pound bond, so it wrinkles. So I mastered this technique of making the paper flat by
ironing it. At what temperature did you
iron on low heat and then press them under books for 2 or 3 days, and it flattens the paper.
Okay.
So the same. So I have a whole series of colored sheets like this that I made. And, this is the same technique. I drew the figure and then I used the oil pastel for the background.
Just hearing you say you use an iron makes me want to take an iron and paper and just see what happens with the heat and the fire as it burns the paper.
Oh, yeah. Michael, if you could go to the first image here too, the first row, first image. I went a little crazy with this. I took just kind of a mediocre figure drawing, and then I folded the paper into a grid. And I started coloring in each grid using
I think that's smart. That sort of brings in some of your pre-work that you do. You're sort of open up to play and color in. You've got layering, you got the figure, the grid, the flowers. You could see, I want to say, when I see your work, Peg, I think you're having a good time. Am I correct? You're enjoying the process. And some artists go through angst. Certainly Francis Bacon and many other artists paint out of adversity and struggle as they're painting. But again, that's not the only way to go. There is to go with love and harmony and to come out with something too. And I sense a happiness and a joy when you create.
That's good. Yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you. Yeah, I think if we just go to back to the work page. You go into the New York City, the first one, the urban life, this where the flowers are. Again, before the pandemic, I really enjoy drawing on location, and New York City is a really good place to do that. So I have a lot of work up here from Grand Central Station and Madison Square Park and the New York Public Library and St. Patrick's Cathedral. So you can browse through these drawings and enjoy.
Well, St. Patrick's Cathedral is certainly a gem hiding right in the middle of the city. Do you draw with urban sketchers, Peg?
No,
That is a very large group that's quite international. They go out and they draw around the city. It's a little different now. Obviously, they work off of Zoom and they have a topic, but that's a large group of artists that sort of get together and they hit the city. The city is your greatest still life that's always moving.
yeah.
So you go on your own?
I go on my own.
Hey, Peg, I have up right now I was going to screen share it if you didn't get to them, but the New York Public Library main reading room charcoal on paper.
Yeah.
I love those. I love your work from life with the figures. Do you do any self-portraiture, especially now in quarantine?
Pardon me?
Have you worked at all in self-portraiture with the graphite, with the charcoal on paper?
Self-portrait? No. No, I'm not interested in my self-portrait. I look outside, I usually paint, outside stuff.
I think you capture, a lot of the elegance of the architecture of New York.
It is very elegant. This is the Madison Square Park, and I like that blue trunk.
Isn't that the Shake Shack or
It is.
what is it called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's a burger, shake, and fry gal. I do want to point out, Gunnar Mundheim said, Peg, I love your presentation. She also does watercolor and is originally from Philadelphia.
That's true. Yes. Well, thank you very much. This has really been a good night.
Very nice.
And Peg, and to actually all artists, I have to suggest that you do some self-portraiture at some point. I did it as a result of a commercial job where it was a snowstorm, and the second model couldn't make it, and I wound up jumping in and being the model. And because of the snowstorm, the client was freaking out, and I wound up, as soon as I saw the stuff come out of the soup, developing in the darkroom, I saw that these were incredibly great pictures, and I wound up getting a show that week to post these very large prints that I made, the very largest prints I ever made in my darkroom. Christo and Jean-Claude saw them, and they called the Merriman Collection in California, who flew somebody out and bought one of the prints to go into the museum. And it was primarily, I think, because it was a self-portrait. And a few years later, I was with somebody who I wound up becoming the muse for, and she wound up doing the self-portrait series again with me. And she wound up selling those prints to 3 different magazines for tens of thousands of dollars. And they weren't, neither one of these were really straight photography, because we both wound up painting on them and doing things to them. But nonetheless, it was, I'm sure it was because they were self-portraits that made them so powerful and so financially, such a windfall for both of us.
Oh, that's
Sometimes an artist looks at themselves and does a self-portrait. Other times artists look out at the world and it's their self-portrait embedded in what they see. And I think with Peg, the color is Peg. Her personality comes through. But there's obviously, again, there's different approaches and different ways to do it. I certainly, as a young artist, I started doing self-portrait because I'm here and I could put a mirror in front of me. I mean, it's like, it's base one in a way. And I look to getting back to it. Joe asked a great question. Are you moving towards portraiture? Fran Beeler, a board member who couldn't be here tonight, from being inside in COVID, people have shifted towards portraiture. I myself, I like life drawing. What I end up doing when I go on other Zooms is I draw the people in the boxes. I don't do it now because I take notes, but I use you as my models. And of course you're moving. It's a little tricky, but I sort of like that. So I think we found, adversity makes for creativity. And so we find solutions That's what we do as artists. I not only want to thank Michael Krausowitz for always helping out, but I want to point out Michael does something on Wednesday at 7 p.m. where you can go to his Facebook and he does a group gathering where artists present. He often has a musician or he has an opera singer. He's got quite an interesting program. You can reach out to Michael. You can go to Facebook, or if you need to, you can reach out to me and I'll send links. And it doesn't have to be through Facebook, by the way. You can get to it. It's just on the web. I do want to thank Peg. Thank you. Very nice presentation. And of course, this is Artist Talk on Art. Thank you all for coming. You know, keep checking in. Look at calendars. It's a new section on our website. It shows you what's coming. Thank you, Colin. That was a brilliant presentation. I really liked how honest, and you too, Joe. You guys you're straightforward. You're straight shooters. If you don't know where it comes from, you say what it is. You're not a Jeff Koons political artist. You are what you are. And I think when you get people who are real, that means a lot. That rings very true in today's world that's loaded with advertisement. Joe, I find your comedy, the sort of overlay of comedy on very hard matters. There's a nice mesh there. I think, you know, we need comedy in our lives, and it's a way to digest the serious. And of course, Peg, beautiful work. Thank you all. Reach out to me if anybody wants to present. It's so nice to see so many regulars and so many new faces. Keep coming, ATOA-NYC.org. Thank you all.
Harry, thank you. Everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
Colin, Peg.
Wonderful evening.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.